Today we will talk about the first trip around the world, the first arrival of the European to the Philippines, and I will show you the boat inside that they used to travel. Hola, my name is Raúl, I'm from Seville, and today we will talk about the Magellan Elcano expedition, the first trip around the world that departed from my city 500 years ago. Here in Seville we have the replica of the Nao Victoria, the first and the only ship that completed the first voyage by boat around the world, that took 3 years to complete, from 1519 to 1522. This voyage was managed by the Portuguese Fernando de Magallanes, also known as Magellan in English, and completed by the Spaniard Juan Sebastián Elcano. The goal for this trip was to open a trade route with the Spice Island called the Moluccas in Indonesia. 5 boats and around 250 men departed from Seville, navigated the Guadalquivir River to Sanlúcar de Barrameda, Cádiz, the door to the Atlantic Ocean for this trip. They decided to go to the west because they had to respect the Treaty of Tordesillas, the agreement between Spain and Portugal about the kingdoms distributed in the exploration of the New World. So that time the Spaniards cannot navigate around Africa, so they continued the previous route of Christopher Columbus. The journey was so difficult for them because there were no maps and they didn't even know the route that Magellan wanted to follow. The first stop was in Tenerife, Canary Island. They continued their difficult journey during 2 months of several storms, but luckily they arrived in which is now Rio de Janeiro. From there they descended hoping to find the way to the South Sea. In that time Magellan discovered that some sailors wanted to conspire against him, so seeing this he executed one of the leaders and left Captain Juan de Cartagena in an isolated island. The next step was to cross a canal later called the Strait of Magellan, but on the way they lost the first ship named Santiago in Puerto de San Julián because of a very strong storm. And also when they were inside of the Strait of Magellan, the ship San Antonio deserted at night and decided to go back to Spain on the same way, while the other 3 ships continued their journey. Crossing the Pacific was longer than what they expected, without seeing the land for 4 months. Hungry and desperate, they even ate the rats in the boat. Many of them got sick and died. Despite the critical situation, the sea was so calm during that 4 months, so they decided to name it Pacific. After this hard voyage, they arrived in Las Marianas Island, and few weeks later to the Philippines, in Homonhon Island, known today as Samar. There Magellan established a good relationship with the rulers and the locals, especially with Raja Humabo, the Raja of Cebu. Magellan baptized him and his queen into Catholicism and gave them the image of Santo Niño as a symbol of their union, which was the beginning of the Christian religion in the Philippines. Because of this alliance, Humabon Hospitality sent orders to the chief of other islands to provide food for Magellan and his people, also to convert them to Christianity. But Lapu-Lapu, the chief of Mactan, refused the orders, and this sparked the Battle of Mactan, where Magellan was killed. Lapu-Lapu's history is widely known among Filipinos, and he is regarded as the first Filipino hero. It was a critical moment for the expedition. There was only 115 survivors, and wasn't enough men to handle the 3 ships, so they decided to burn the most affected one and continue their journey with only 2 boats, the Trinity and the Victoria, with Juan Sebastián Elcano in charge of the expedition. After 5 months of repairing the boats, they reached the Spice Island. But unexpected breakage of the Trinity ship made them to take a difficult decision. 53 members will stay in Las Moluccas until they repair the boat and be able to come back to Spain. The Victoria returned along the eastern route, and they disobeyed the Treaty of Tordesillas. In that time, the relationship between Spain and Portugal was very tense, so the ship sailed away from the coast, for then not to be discovered. Worn out and sick, Elcano expedition take over the land of Cabo Verde, the Revelry. At the beginning they didn't recognize them, but when they discovered their identity, Elcano expedition flee in terror, leaving some men behind. Finally, on September 8, 1522, no Victoria ship with 18 men, sick and hungry, arrived back to Seville, Spain, becoming the very first trip around the world by boat. For the first time in history, it was confirmed that the world is round. For more histories and visiting tours about my city and more places of Spain, first subscribe to my channel because you will give me a high motivation to continue doing my videos. And after, check our homepage for more videos. In Seville, the place where they departed 500 years ago, we can explore a real-size replica of the only ship who achieved this expedition, the Nau Victoria. In the next video, you will see the tour inside of the boat. Thank you and see you in our next video.